Okay, let's jump right in. What if I told you the entire universe is actually a magnificent palace, and we're all invited guests? Sounds kind of wild, right? Well, that's the central idea from this really profound text we're going to explore today. It uses this one powerful story to try and unlock, the big riddle of our own existence. It's a fascinating way to think about our place in the world, for sure.
So, the text kicks things off with this huge, huge question. It's basically asking, what's the secret key? The one talisman that helps us understand everything? What is the whole point of our creation? I mean, this is a question philosophers have been wrestling with for, well, forever. But what's cool is the answer this text gives us. It's not some complicated formula. It's a simple, really elegant story.
Right, so the source we're digging into is a text called the 11th Word, and what it does is it frames its entire explanation as a comparison, or you could call it a parable. The whole idea is to take these giant abstract concepts like creation and purpose and bring them down to earth with a simple story that we can all actually get our heads around.
Okay, so let's get into the story itself. It asks us to imagine this incredibly powerful and wealthy king. But here's the thing, he's not just any king. We're talking about a master of amazing arts, someone with vast knowledge, and just unimaginable treasures.
So, you know how when someone creates something beautiful, they want to share it? Well, this king who possesses all this perfection and beauty, he has this deep desire. He wants to see and to show the majesty of his own work. His whole motivation is to create something that reflects his own grandeur, not just for himself, but for others to see and appreciate too.
So what does a king like this do? He builds a palace, of course, but not just any palace, an absolutely magnificent one. It's filled with these incredible apartments, just dripping with jewels from his endless treasuries. It's full of the finest art, and get this, it's all made by his own hand. And as if that's not enough, he lays out these unbelievable banquets with every delicious food you can possibly imagine. It's a total act of generosity.
Now, a palace this amazing, this full of meaning, well, it needs a guide, right? An interpreter. So the king appoints a teacher. And this person's job is absolutely crucial. He's there to explain to all the guests what the palace is really all about, to reveal its secrets, and, most importantly, to communicate what the king who built it all wants them to know.
And here we get to the heart of the teacher's message. He basically tells the guests, hey people, the whole reason this palace exists is so the king can make himself known to you. So the response is pretty clear. The guests are supposed to recognize him, love him for all the beauty he's created, thank him for being so generous, and finally, show that they're really eager to see the king himself. And then, boom, the story just stops. Right there. It gives us this whole scene, the king, the palace, the teacher, the guests, and then just leaves us hanging. It's a deliberate pause, It's forcing us, the reader, to lean in and ask, okay, so what does this all mean?
All right, this is the good part. This is where we get the key to unlock the whole allegory. Every single element in that story is a symbol for something way, way bigger. You can think of it like a one-to-one map, connecting the story directly to our reality, at least according to this text.
And check this out, this is how it all breaks down. The king, well, that's the creator, God. The magnificent palace, that's not a building, it's the entire world, the whole universe. The jewels and treasures represent the manifestations of the divine names, things like beauty, power, wisdom. The incredible arts and foods are the miracles of creation and mercy that we see all around us. The teacher is the Prophet Muhammad, and the guests, well, that's us, mankind and jinn, invited into this incredible palace.
So once everyone is inside the palace, in other words, once we're living here in the world, the guests, humanity, they split into two totally different groups, and their paths go in completely opposite directions, all based on how they choose to see and interact with everything around them.
Okay, so you've got the first group. They're described as intelligent, self-aware. They look around and think, wow, this place is incredible. There has to be a purpose to it all. And they actually listen to the teacher to figure it out. But then you have the second group. They just get completely distracted. The text says their minds were corrupted. They only focus on the food, the immediate physical pleasures. They totally ignore the guide, get drunk on all the distractions, and just start acting up, behaving badly and messing things up for everyone else. And this is the crucial point, right? These two choices lead to two drastically different outcomes. The king is super pleased with that first group, so he invites them to an even more magnificent eternal palace. It's their reward for understanding and being grateful. But the second group? For their bad behavior and just willful ignorance, the king's soldiers come, arrest them, and they're thrown into a prison. The stakes are pretty high.
Okay, so now the text does something really interesting. It pivots. It shifts the focus from the story directly onto you, the reader, onto us. It uses this whole parable as a foundation to explain what it says is the purpose of your life.
And it hits you with this really provocative question. Think about it. Do you really suppose your life's duty is just gratifying physical appetites? Is the whole point of your amazing senses, your brain, your emotions, just to chase pleasure like that second group in the story? The text answer is a big, emphatic no. It argues that all your human faculties were given to you for a much, much higher purpose.
And here they are, the 9 aims of life, according to the text. This is like a complete roadmap for a life of real purpose, something that goes way beyond just consuming stuff. It starts with just perceiving, using your senses to really weigh the gifts all around you and just say thanks. Then it's about reflection, looking at the patterns in creation to unlock these deeper meanings, what it calls divine names. And from there, it's all about action, displaying these divine arts and virtues in your own life for the pre-eternal witness. I mean, the text even says your own weakness can be a tool to understand infinite power, and your own limited knowledge can be a little window into the Creator's attributes. At the end of the day, it's about becoming a conscious observer, a willing participant, and a reflection of all the beauty you see.
So, to wrap this all up, the text brings us full circle. It goes right back to the verses it started with, verses from the Quran that talk about the sun and the soul. And this final analogy just ties the entire message together in this really powerful, poetic way. So what is the ultimate purpose of your life, according to this text? It's to be a mirror. Simple as that, a clean, polished mirror, one that's capable of reflecting the light of what it calls the pre-eternal sun, the Creator. So the goal isn't just to exist, right? It's to consciously perceive that light, to love it, and then to reflect it back into the world through who you are. And so we're going to end right where the text does, with this incredibly powerful verse. The whole parable, the 2 groups of guests, the 9 aims of life, it all boils down to this one choice. The choice to purify your soul, to polish that mirror, which leads to success, or to corrupt it, to let it get dusty and grimy, which leads to failure. It's a pretty provocative final thought on the journey that every single one of us is on.